Welcome back. Now, cryptocurrency prices have fallen sharply, wiping out almost all their gains since Donald Trump's election win in early November. The decline comes after Trump's recent imposition of tariff hikes and countermeasures by Beijing, resulting in a market jolt that erased billions in value. And joining us to unpack the tariff implications on crypto markets is Luno SA Country Manager Christo de Wit. Thank you so much for your time, Christo. There is a whole lot of noise at the moment. But leading up to Liberation Day, were the cryptocurrencies expected to trade on that?
We were expecting, or I think the market was expecting, some form of resilience against these tariffs that was imposed by the Trump administration. And I think when we look at it from an industry perspective, the industry held out pretty much until Sunday, when investors woke up Sunday morning. There was a risk-off sentiment, and that's when we started seeing that large sell-offs taking place in the crypto market. So the cryptocurrency industry as a whole was not immune to these trade announcements by the US, and we're seeing it across all cryptocurrencies, significant downturn in the momentum that we've been built up, as well as significant portions of market capitalization being wiped out.
Yeah. And what exactly is the major worry of these tariffs that is impacting the crypto market?
So I think it's less so related directly to the crypto market and the impact of the tariffs directly on crypto itself. But what we are seeing is that in response to this, there is that close correlation between the crypto industry and the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. And we've seen that correlation throughout the last year or so tightening, with significant swings in the stock exchanges also reflected then in the crypto industry.
It's quite interesting that you talk about this correlation between the crypto market and the Nasdaq and tech stocks, and really there's been this narrative that cryptocurrencies are behaving and are being traded like tech stocks. But it's quite interesting that you also talk about that it's been tightening over the last year, because I think before then there'd actually been a decoupling from that correlation. And I'm wondering at this point, because a lot of people are finding safe havens like gold, like the Japanese yen, that if maybe we could get more of a decoupling at some point when there is more calm, where people could maybe flock to cryptocurrency as kind of a hedge for risk.
No, absolutely. And I think, Bitcoin in a large part is seen as digital gold, as the safe haven when there's, a lot of uncertainty in traditional finance. But I think this narrowing gap between cryptocurrency and the stock exchange and the markets in the US came in the beginning of last year with the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETS. And we saw significant capital inflows, institutional capital inflows into the cryptocurrency sector. Now, whether or not Bitcoin and crypto can act as that safe haven against political and global uncertainty, I think it's still very early days. I think there is this knee-jerk reaction at the moment against the shock with the global tariffs, with the whole world being in shock around how to react and what that is going to mean for the broader economy. But I think in a longer term, that's when we'll have to wait and see how the cryptocurrency market and the crypto industry reacts to this and this further global uncertainty and this looming global tariff war.
You talk about the SEC approving the spot Bitcoin ETF. Of course, that was a major regulatory move that was welcome. Besides all the noise that we are seeing now within the broader political economy, are there any catalysts that you are looking out for, at least in the short term, that could impact the cryptocurrency market, cryptocurrency-specific catalysts?
So I think one thing to look out for is the amount of new capital flowing into the cryptocurrency markets, what that is doing to the overall market capitalization, and if we are then seeing increased demand and also an increase in the price. That's going to be a very significant thing to look out for. If there's no increase in the price with increased or increased flow of capital into the crypto sector, I think we might see a little bit of a downturn over a longer period of time. We've seen this previously as well in previous beginnings of bear markets, where a significant shock at least has a 3 to 6 months downturn. But I think it's too early to say at this stage. I think the important thing is to see how the global economy and the global markets play out in reaction to these tariffs, and then see how the cryptocurrency market reacts to this. I think if we look at the gold market, for instance, we've seen that gold in the beginning of April reached an all-time high. So there is this sentiment of going back to that traditional safe haven asset, which is gold, and we see that investors are flocking to that. We also are seeing that investors are going to government bonds to find a hedge against this uncertainty. So I think there's a lot of things happening in the global investor space. We know that cryptocurrency is a highly volatile, highly risky asset class. And we then see that in conditions where there is risk-off sentiment, that the crypto industry is not immune to that. And we see that investors, are facing that selling pressure.
Yeah. And of course, the cryptocurrency market is a big one with lots of cryptocurrencies. Are there some that maybe have lifted some, have boosted worry in that they're more hard hit than others? Are there any stock differences in how they're moving in prices?
Yeah, I think if we look at just over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin was down around 7%, but then if you compare that to Ethereum, which is down around 12%, there are differences. So it's not necessarily a clear cut across the board. It all depends on the investor sentiment of those who hold that currency, also how the network is responding to that, and what is the backing or the underlying asset that guarantees that crypto asset. I think in South Africa, it would also be interesting to see how the South African market reacts to this, as we're also now seeing significant volatility against the US, with those trade tariffs also hitting the South African economy. And if South African investors might then take to crypto or Bitcoin as that alternative safe haven in the long run, and almost acting as that hedge against inflation. So very interesting times to keep an eye on the crypto market, the global economic space. But I think it's very early days, and investors should take a very cautionary approach in this space.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you so much for your time and really giving us insight on the tariff implications for the cryptocurrency market. Christo, that was Christo de Wit, SA Country Manager for Luno.